glad to be here, but before I tell my story, there's two things I have to do. The first one is I want you to go back to Laura's presentation and look at the scariest thing we've seen today. And that's the survival rate of people 10 years out from that time frame. I can tell you that I was first identified with melanoma 9 years and 4 months ago, and I'm still here. The second thing is I owe a deep gratitude to this place and to particularly 6 people. And first of all, I was led to Dr. Kirkwood originally. And then Melissa Wilson is like my third daughter. I've been dealing with her for that whole 9 years. Thirdly is a doctor that's no longer here, my first surgeon, Dr. Eddington. And then my second surgeon, the miracle worker who you heard today, Dr. Holtzman, who has saved my life at least twice. And lastly, I have to tell you that Dr. Devar is currently who I'm dealing with, and I call him the mad scientist. In addition, I really have to talk about someone who's not here, my wife, Bonnie, who's had to learn to do things she never thought she could do as a result of some of the things that have happened to me and I've had to go through. My wife first found a dark spot on the bottom of my foot. And so my melanoma was from a mole, and which eventually led me to Dr. Kirkwood, who had February of 2009, my first surgery, where they removed my middle toe on my right foot, and also went in and did, as they talked about, my sentinel node, and I think a total of 4 of my nodes up in my groin. And of course, there was cancer stage 3 in the sentinel node. But what I remembered from the doctor, when Dr. Eden called me that night, is he said they thought they got it early, but they were going to have to do the surgery to remove the rest. But that night, it hit me. I had cancer in my body. And I thought of 3 things. I thought, first of all, he said he thinks he got it early. And that's going to be my story to my family. And secondly, I was going to fight this. I was not going to be a victim in my own mind. And thirdly, I thought of my brother, who died from mesothelioma at age 48, and how much courage he showed if it really got bad. I never got to the kinds of treatments got to that stage because of everything that happened. Second surgery was a month or 2 later, and then after that, Dr. Kirkwood put me on interferon for a year. This 20 dosages was 19 dosages of the heavy duty stuff, and then I was to self-inject. After the 11th treatment, I went into AFib. Dr. Kirkwood said, your heart just can't take this drug, these heavy doses, but we think you can go on the others. I did go into AFib. Eventually I had to have a defibrillator. As a result, it wasn't just, I had heart problems to begin with, I guess, and this just exacerbated that. I did have some of the other symptoms. I don't even remember them all, but I know in that year I lost 38 pounds. But then everything went well, but it came back in 2012. I had 4 different surgeries on my foot before they got it all. My wife, who had to treat it every day, said after that last surgery, she could see the bone at the bottom of my foot. And I went into that last surgery thinking I was going to lose my big toe, but Dr. Eddington was able to save that. It came back again, and it was again up in where my lymph nodes were, and there was to be surgery, and I went back to Dr. Eddington, and he said it wouldn't cure it unless there was a game plan. Well, Dr. Kirkwood had a game plan. That game plan was to put me on IPI. So I went on IPI, and I had all the side effects. And probably the 2 worst were to my gland, where it gave me intense headaches, but they put me on the heavy-duty steroids for that, and my knees were a heck of a lot better than they had ever been in 20 years. And also, the worst part of it was a really bad 5 or 6 week bout with colitis. And but I got through that, and things improved. But you know, you've heard it before, melanoma has a tendency to come back. It's kind of like that old song, the cat came back the very next day. So we went for a while, and then in 2015, I guess it was, they discovered one on my, I was getting sick and I wasn't doing well, and they discovered a tumor in my spine, on my spine, which they treated with radiation and neutralized it, and I've never heard anything about that one since. But there was others that we discovered through a camera that was put down through my system in my, you know, in my gut, in my small intestine. And they watched that for a while, and that year I was not well at all, and my daughter got married. I was hospitalized because I fainted because my blood count was down. They finally decided to operate, and that's when, you know, Dr. Holtzman came in, and I only wanted one thing out of him: just let me get through without a coloscopy bag. So he goes in and he operates, and he finds all this infection. And the first thing he thinks about is, oh, I told this guy he wasn't going to end it with a coloscopy bag. Well, somehow he pulled it off. And I didn't have that, but I had a really wide cut. I had to have a pump, wear that for a month. I remember going to the movies and people looking around wondering what that sound was. It was my pump. But I was basically homebound for most of the time that I was on that pump. But I got over that and in that surgery, but it came back again in 2016. We watched the tubes that were in my gut, and then one from one scan to another, they grew 20%. So it was decided by Dr. Kirkwood and Dr. Holtzman to go in again in that surgery in 2016. And I ended up, they took out 10 tumors. Unfortunately for me, by this time, I was already starting Keytruda. And they had to stop it so they could do the operation when they grew. So what happened at that point is they took out a total of 10 tumors. And they took 3 sections. The first time they took 2 feet of my intestine. Now they took 3 more sections. So I had really 4 different cuts going on down there. And at that point, you know, we had my post-meeting with Dr. Holtzman. You get one of those. So one of my questions was, look, you've done this now twice. How often can you do this? Now, my daughter Amy, who's here, had baked cookies for both Dr. Kirkwood's office and Dr. Holtzman's office, and he came in on a sugar high and wanted a recipe for one of the cookies. And so when I asked that question, his answer was, how often can your daughter bake cookies? Because there's a lot of intestine there, which gave me some hope. But luckily for me, the Keytruda seems to have happened. And since that operation in October of 16, yesterday I had my 44th treatment of Keytruda, and so far, as of the last scan, still cancer-free from that. We hope to stop the Keytruda in October after 2 more scans, if I can get 2 more clear scans. So that's kind of my story. But you know, I got to tell you who I am a little bit and how I feel about this journey. First of all, you could define me as a husband, and as a father, and as a grandfather, but probably as a retired banker, which is what I was for 40 years. But at the gut, at the heart of me, I'm just a tough kid from the north side, and I wasn't going to let this beat me. And that's kind of the way I feel about it. I think it takes fight. I think it takes an attitude. And I think it takes gratitude to make it through this long. And for me, I think it's made me a better human being. I think I'm better off for having been through this. And I just want to leave you with one quote, because I do an update every once in a while to my friends and my family, and they always end up with one of my quotes. And this one comes from a book that my son-in-law, who's sitting here, gave me on man's search for meaning. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude to any given set of circumstances and to choose one's own way. And I chose to fight it, and I'm still here. So that's all I have to say.